Welcome back, everybody, to the Successful Events podcast. I'm excited because we are kicking off a new podcast series, and what we're doing in this series is I'm getting to share with you a process, a roadmap. If you've been around for a little while, the event planning, event roadmap. I've called it a few different things in the past. I've done a podcast series about this last year in 2024. We are now in 2025, and if you are on YouTube, you will see behind me a whiteboard actually where I have really been diving into my process of what do I go through with my clients? What am I going through in my community? And how can we make sense so people can find themselves in the process along the journey of planning their own event and executing their own event and the after of hosting your own event. And what I realized though is I sat back and I started reflecting. And if anyone is into astrology, it's a huge time of reflection right now we are in Venus retrograde. We just started Mercury retrograde. We just went through a lunar eclipse. But over the years, I have guided countless business owners through this process. And I got really nitty gritty into it. And what I realized is that this process is more than just planning a successful event. It truly is a journey. And it's a blend of strategy and intuition, as well as action and transformation. And that's why what used to be called the event planning roadmap is officially now the successful event journey. And it's my own framework that I have taken, again, through clients for them, just getting really clear on that it not only helps you host a successful event, but it's also helping you grow as a leader and stepping into the leadership position in your business, the leadership position in your community, with your clients, and also growing you as just a business owner in general along the way. So I have been sharing this in my community. It is something that we just recently kind of relaunched, and I have created a fun visual that goes along with it. And today we're going to dive into what does this journey look like, and then start with the first step, which is ideation. So stay tuned and join us in for this episode. Welcome, everybody, to the Successful Events Podcast, your go-to podcast for hosting impactful, purpose-driven events. I'm your host, Kat Roten, an event strategist and logistics expert, here to help you plan and execute events with confidence. You'll hear from top industry experts sharing the latest trends, live coaching calls with myself and fellow community members, and of course, my personal favorite, strategies to help you stay true to your vision without the burnout while you're event planning. But here's the thing, your event isn't just about the details. It's a time to celebrate your hard work, to show up fully in your energy at your event, and to lead with confidence. That's why we focus on self-care, intentionality, and making sure your event aligns with your purpose so it doesn't just look good, but it also feels good for you too. Let's simplify the process and make it unforgettable. Again, just welcome back. I am excited to kick off the series with you all. But before we jump into the first step of ideation, I just want to hit on a few things with you on what I have realized along a successful event journey. So to host your own successful event, things that you need to be aware of that are part of the process. And I mentioned it at the beginning of this episode. You have strategy, you have intuition, you have action, and transformation, actually. And not many people really think about, especially that last one. So let's just touch on each of these really briefly. Strategy is very simple, very straightforward. I think we all know. This is the tools, the resources, the materials. These are the things that I have created for my community. I have a few free resources as well to really make sure you have a clear plan and a strategy while you're planning your event. So this is your financials and budgeting. It's finding sponsors, sourcing them, and then how do you communicate to them, communicate to your attendees, communicate to your vendors, your visibility, your marketing strategy, the flow of your event, the scheduling, and then actually executing and then debriefing. All of that is mapped out for you in my community. It's all part of this process, this journey that we're going to be going through the next few episodes. The piece that goes with the strategy, though, is also your intuition. Every time you're making strategic decisions, you're making decisions on your event, you have to make it for you. This is not a one-size-fits-all process. It is not that you need to do everything that's in this process either, or try every tactic, every different strategy, every marketing tool. You have to really sit and listen into your own intuition and what your body, what your soul is truly telling you inside. Because when it comes to choosing what size of event, what's the type of event you're putting on, who are the right speakers to be in the room, who are the right attendees, what is the energy, ebb and flow you want, you have to come back to you and yourself and what is right for you and your audience and your business. It is ultimately about aligning yourself with your event versus a perfect event, because there's no such thing as perfection, which I think we all know and could dive into, and that's a whole other tangent. So if you have the strategy, you're following your intuition, you have to actually take action on it. And I think that's one of the hardest parts most people deal with. And it's one thing that I am strong at. It's why I'm a planner. It's why I love getting into nitty-gritty details. It's not just, I don't like per se making the decisions, but I'm really good at acting and implementing it, integrating it into my business, into my event. That's why I do my fractional work now that I do, because I'm so good at taking that visionary idea. And if you are a visionary, which you probably are if you're a business owner, then you are very up and have all the ideas, and it's really hard to sit and execute and actually take action. You have to do that to put on your event, though. You have to sit down and make the connections. You have to actually take the strategy and implement into your marketing and implement into sourcing your vendors. It's why the framework that we're going to go through is a mix of tactical tools and structures that are also mixed with that intuition alignment that you need to have in it. But you have to be taking the action to be seeing any type of results. And the last thing that I want to touch on with this journey that I've realized when it comes to planning your own event, when it comes to hosting your own event, the one thing I do not think people really talk about, and honestly, I knew this, but never really talked about it myself, but that's the part where when you're hosting an event, you're transforming in the process. The planning, the hosting is actually transforming you. Yes, it's transforming your attendees. It's making a difference in transforming the sponsors potentially, but also in this process, it's you. It's building your confidence, whether it's your first event, which you'll see the most changes and difference in when you're hosting your first 1 to 3 events, I would say, because you're having to really step up and build this confidence. But even if you're onto your 20th or 100th episode, you are still building your confidence. You are refining your messaging. You are growing as a leader and expanding the capacity to hold space for more people, for a larger audience, for a greater message and a greater impact. And then lastly, when it comes to transformation, is that there's an energy exchange that happens that I've talked about in the past between you and your attendees. And it shifts how you show up in your life and business. And all of these things come down to that when you host your event, you execute, and then you get to your post-event debrief and reflections, you realize how much it really has changed and really changed you. So I just want you to sit with that. If you need to pause this for a moment, just sit with those different steps and think about if you have hosted your own event before, have you followed the strategy, leaned into your intuition, taken the action, and seen the transformation? And I think that transformation piece is huge. If you've never sat and reflected on that, sit back and reflect on it. So now we're going to go into kind of what are all the steps along the process. And again, I have them all behind me on the whiteboard if you're on YouTube watching this. The first step that we're going to talk about today is ideation. This is not, I'm not going to say a brief process, but it's a very brief and easy to explain step along the successful event journey. Your next step is foundations, and foundations is really broken down into about 5 different things that happen. You then go into build. It's your building phase where you're really building out the event. You're building the strategy, you're getting visibility, and you're promoting. And then you're really getting, as you get towards the event, you're getting into your pre-event flow and prep and figuring out what are those final details you need to have ready to ultimately step into the next phase, which is execution. Actually executing, actually setting up, hosting the event, doing the damn thing. Like, it is something that you can do and is so powerful as long as you've gone through ideation, the foundations, and gone through the whole building process. And then last but not least, the last step and stage in this journey is going to be the 3R debrief. And this is you reflect, you rejuvenate, and you reignite. And honestly, what I have also realized in the midst of this process is it all loops right back around to ideation. So after you execute, after you go through the debriefing process, you're reigniting the excitement, the energy that was in that room, and you're starting to ideate, what does an event look like next year? What does the event look like next quarter? What does it look like to do this again? And what are those changes that make? And you go through this loop because yes, technically an event is a 6-month planning process, and you're probably ultimately actually working on your event for longer than that. And you're really sitting with the idea and what does it look like? And honestly, if you start doing these annually, I recommend really starting to plan out the next one while you're finishing up the first one and in that debriefing process, because we'll get to this another time, and I dive into this in my community, in the event host community, is how you can set yourself up for so much better success and like a foundation buffer cushion, whatever you want to call it, for the next year or for that next event. All right, so let's dive into ideation. So ideation, you are in this step no matter what. Again, this might be the step that you actually sit in the longest, and one that you also don't have to sit in for a very long time if you know. But the two core things about the ideation phase is that you are, one, creating your vision, and you have your vision, and really getting centered in it. What does it look like? What does it feel like? I have a visualization inside the community that I kind of take people through when they're in ideation phase. And it's also the ideation, but creating that, like understanding the feeling, understanding what you're wanting to do for people in the event, while you're planning the event, the process of getting there. It's where you can get really clear on your why. It's where you get your core why solidified and what the vision of that event is. And that's the ideation phase. The ideation phase is so important. And I used to actually include your core why in the foundations, but I've realized you really have to get clear on your why. You really have to get clear on your event vision, because when you start making those decisions that happen in the foundation phase, if you are not clear, you're going to start making decisions that are not aligned with you. They are not right for you. And as you continue down the road of building out the event and planning and promoting, you'll start to realize that maybe you're not as excited about it because you started making decisions that were not right for you. So in the ideation phase, really sit with it. I'm also going to link, I did a short 4 or 5 minute visualization here on the podcast months ago that I think is still really good if you're not in the community, to get a little teaser of what that looks like. But to really sit for 4 or 5 minutes and understand the process and what you want to feel like. What do you want your attendees to feel like? What do you want to be experiencing? What is the taste, the smell, the touch that's happening throughout the event? All those sensory things are what comes into the experience of creating your event. All of that needs to be thought about in the ideation phase before you start strategizing, before you start taking action, and before you start making ultimately these decisions that may or may not be aligned for you. So I'm so excited to be bringing you this series again. We'll be dropping these episodes once a week, some of them twice, really breaking down the different phases of the successful event journey. And I cannot wait, and I want your feedback as we go through this, because this ultimately is going to be an incredible opportunity for you to figure out, is an event right for you? Is the event you've been hosting for a while right for you? Have you been aligned with it? And how can you get more clear and more centered in what you're creating? I also want to mention, I will, as of this episode launching, be announcing our next masterclass. So keep an eye out within a day or two of this dropping. The new masterclass is going to be, or the next masterclass is going to be on May 1st. And it's really going to be centered around pricing, sponsorships, collaborations, a few different things. I have had people in the community, as well as those of you that are on social media, telling me what you're needing. So drop into the show notes if you have not already. Go follow and connect with us on Instagram, and then go check out the masterclass that's happening on May 1st. I would love to have you there, where we're going to dive into a little bit of these phases, and ultimately, like I said, getting specific on pricing, sponsorships, collaborations, and a few other things that I feel could be really supportive of you, but make sure you're taking away different tangible steps and action steps that you can really apply to both your business, your life, and your event. So thank you so much for being here. Have an amazing, incredible rest of your day. And I will see you next time on the Successful Events Podcast. Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you enjoyed this conversation, don't miss our weekly newsletter, The Successful Events Insider. It's the best way to stay connected so you never miss an episode, you hear special announcements, or behind the scenes updates. Each week I take what we cover here on the podcast, and I'll dive even a little bit deeper and give you a little bit more behind the scenes of what is going on in my life and the events world. So join us inside the Successful Events Insider. There's a link below in the show notes. Get the support, the strategies, and the inspiration you need to make your next event your best one yet.